She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties. Talk about this book today. Look the Virgin Mary in the eye, girl. Ask for forgiveness.
Well, she's sitting there tonguing the freaking body of Christ.
Anyway, we've gone way off the rails here.
And my mantra is C's get degrees.
Literally the only thing I could say was uno momento por favor.
Can a scent be tattooed itself onto your memory?
Hi!
Hi! We're struggling today, gang. It's fine. We're gonna push through.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I was at a conference this week for school librarians, and I got this cool t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt.
It.
Yeah.
I love it.
And
the pictures were great.
Yeah. But I'm exhausted. I'm an introvert. We've talked about this before. And so conferences, they wear me out. It's a lot of peopling. So today I'm really tired. And my family has been passing around this cold. It started with my youngest, my Sam. And it's finally made its way to me. So if I sound all nasally, that's why. And I'm out.
Sing smelly cat.
I'll just hope that Tom can chop out when I'm
coughing,
sounding terrible or sniffing or whatever. It's just a regular cold, sinusy, whatever. But
yeah,
after extroverting for 2 days and then
you're ready to be in bed.
I'm tired. So I'm doing this with you though, because I love you and I love our fans.
And it's our 20th episode!
Happy anniversary! Yay! Who would have thought we would have made it to 20 episodes?
Me, because I keep making you do this.
I mean, it's not like I'm not a willing participant.
True. But in fact, it's not like I'm holding you against your will. Calling Tom every day to be like, make sure she's on camera.
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't know. I guess when we had talked about doing this, because it's been almost a year now since you told me you had a dream of us podcast together.
We've been working on it slowly.
Yeah, we decided to wait until summer because I would have more time. And we had no idea what it would start to look like when I went back to work. Like, would we still do this weekly or would we change formats? And we've successfully made it a weekly podcast.
That's your hard work, girly. Because I have a full-time job because I'm making the tiny humans stay alive. But you are doing them double duty. You're kicking ass.
Well, in some ways I feel like it's hard for people to keep up with our reading speed.
Right.
And we don't film on our reading speed. We film on our availability.
Right.
So sometimes we have a few of these episodes in the can, as they say. And so maybe that's frustrating for our listeners. I don't know. But I'm proud of us. We've made it 20 episodes and we have the rest of this calendar year planned out, and then we will switch
a good chunk of next year too, gang.
We do. We're going to call these 6-month seasons. So this season will end at the end of 2021, and we will kick off season 2 in January with a super interesting, maybe not at all, episode of us answering fan questions and just talking about life,
our likes and dislikes, and let's set some ground rules. We're not going to tell you about our kids. I mean, you know their names based off if you've listened long enough. But
there are some things that we're okay with sharing about our kids, but like, you don't get to know all the things.
No. I don't mind talking about the Matt because Matt don't care.
I mean, Tom doesn't really either. He just laughs about the things that we say.
Well, I mean, he has to. He edits us. Love you, Tom.
Yeah. There'll be some things that, if you put those questions in, we just won't answer them. But I did want to say in January, we are going to have 2 episodes with a special guest who is a friend of Molly's.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited.
I am too. And we'll start promoting that. That's just your little teaser, but we'll start promoting that soon. He also runs his own podcast.
He has a pretty interesting podcast.
Episodes. Yeah, we're going to do some crossover episodes. So that's your teaser. We won't tell you who it is right now. And we won't tell you any more than that, but that's your teaser. So
here's the one hint. It has nothing to do with anything we fucking do.
Oh yeah, he's basically doing us a favor and reading books for us, but like that's not his podcast. Like that's not what he does on his.
No, Isaac, I know you listen, bud, and we really appreciate it, and we're really excited to work with you.
Well, so there's the name. I said we weren't going to say the name, but Molly, don't give away his last name, okay?
But we don't do the thing you do, dude.
Yeah, we definitely do not do the thing he does. But anyway, so I'm feeling a little under the weather and extroverted out, but we're going to talk about this book today.
Don't worry, I'll be plenty extra for you.
This book is called The Poet X. It is by Elizabeth Acevedo. It is a book in verse. So if you're watching us on YouTube, I'm just showing you a few pages here. You can see that it is a book of poetry.
What a beautiful damn book.
It's beautiful. It is YA. I am sad to report that even though this book came out in 2018, I am the first person to check this out from my local library.
Oh, this had a weight on it here.
I'm bummed about that because this book is amazing.
It is amazing.
It's a really good book. It's a very quick read.
Fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit, but the audiobook is only 3.5-ish hours, and this book could be read in a few hours because it is a book in verse. It's well worth your time. And so, how about a synopsis?
Let's hit me, girl.
Hit you?
Hit me with it.
Okay.
Hit me.
All right.
I'm starting early. It's fine.
All right, Zia Mara is a sophomore in high school. She has a twin brother with a super brain. He's very smart. They share a room in a 2-bedroom apartment. They have both their parents live with them. They are Dominican American. Zia Mara, or as she calls herself, the Poet X, reflects on her life as a beautiful Dominican girl in Harlem through writing poetry in her journal. Throughout the book, Z asks questions about her Catholic faith, experiences her first love, and hides her true self from her traditional mom. This book explores Z's life in verse with grit and Spanish flair. The audiobook is read by the author, Elizabeth Acevedo, who is the first writer of color to ever win the Carnegie Medal. Yes.
Applause in there for me, Tom, because Homegirl deserves it, girly. That was awesome. It is a beautiful book.
So I am going to link below the article in which it talks about her winning the Carnegie Medal. At the time, she was the first author of color in its 83-year history. I'm not sure if another author of color has won it since her, but she's the first one in 83 years to win the Carnegie Medal. So,
I don't want to tear up, but that is beautiful.
And
beautiful.
This is her first book. Her other books, I'll link to her website. Follow her on Instagram too. She posts some really great things. I think her Instagram handle is Elizabeth Acevedo Writes or something like that. But read her books. I like reading them in audiobook format, and that's actually what my first question is. So I'll hold off on that. But anything you want to say before we jump into the questions?
I don't think so.
This was your first read, right?
This is my first read.
My second.
Knowing that this was her first book, I am thoroughly impressed.
She's amazing. She's thoroughly really fucking talented.
I want to read her dedication.
Okay.
Unless you would like to.
No, go ahead.
Because I think it's beautiful. I'm going to screw up the last name. To Catherine Bolinos and my former students at Buck Lodge Middle School 2010 to 2012, and all the little sisters yearning to see themselves. This is for you. And
she does read that dedication in the audiobook as well. And it's
just beautiful.
just looking at the reviews at the front of this book, Jason Reynolds reviewed her book, and Jason Reynolds was one of the co-authors of All American Boys, which we read during Banned Books Month on the podcast. So
I'm surprised this hasn't been banned.
Oh, it has. It has. It's made several lists for language. All right, let's talk about let's talk about the audiobook. So this is your first read of the book. It was actually my second. And we both read the audiobook.
Yes.
I got the physical book from the library so that I could see the format.
I got halfway through the audiobook, and the formatting was so compelling I had to see it physically. I had to hold it in my hands. And it is just...
And you got the Spanish version again.
I didn't this time. I didn't this time.
Molly.
I live in Texas. Get off my back, babe.
Well, what did you think of Elizabeth Acevedo as a narrator?
Oh, fantastic. Mm-hmm. The tongue click, like, girl, please. That is so authentic.
Yeah.
And I have several friends who are Hispanic Americans, and I know them from my time in the service. I know them from here, and different cultures have different types of dialects, and the DR and because if you are from the Bronx or the New York City, that tongue click becomes a part of culture.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful to hear it throughout.
I also like that I don't know Spanish, and parts of this book are in Spanish, and I like that I can hear the actual pronunciations as opposed to just trying to guess what they would sound like. And I think that so I personally, poetry for me, it's always been read. It's April. It's always read better aloud. Like poetry is not meant to be read. This trend
it's meant to be experienced.
Right. So this trend of books in verse. I was actually just talking about this at my conference with some of the other middle school librarians I met. It's a very accessible way to expose kids to literature who aren't big readers, because they look at the width of this book and they're like, oh no, fuck that. That's too much. And then you open it up and you're like, oh, it has like 3 words on one page. And they're like, oh, maybe I'll try that. So it's very accessible. But I like hearing it. So having this being a book in verse, but actually listening to it, to me was great. And I'm glad that she didn't have somebody else narrate for her. I will say, because let me ask you this before I say this next part. Do you think you'll read any of her other books?
I'd like to. I'm hoping she has I hope she narrates more.
Yes, so that's actually what I was going to say. So With the Fire on High was her second book, phenomenal. And her third book was Clap When You Land. And that one, I didn't like that one as well. But she narrates in all 3 of them. Clap When You Land, it has dual narrators. So she narrates with another person. And all 3 of the books feature the main character as a young woman.
Are they all
Dominican?
Verse like this?
Yes. They're all in verse.
I love that. I love that formatting and style.
Yes, I do too. Like she would, I'm pretty sure I read an article. I could be spreading false things. I'm pretty sure she said that she considers herself a poet first.
I can see that.
Yeah, but she hasn't written a book in the traditional novel sense. All of her novels have been novels in verse. And she's one right now. I don't think
I want anything else from her though.
Yeah, I love it.
I feel like it wouldn't be authentic.
No, it wouldn't be. I feel like she's one of the ones right now that the teens really gravitate towards. I think because she's really gritty, and she's authentic and
it's honest.
It
is honest.
Yeah, it is. So I really like it. And Xiomara, I mean, even though I didn't grow up in the Bronx, and even though I'm not Dominican, there were parts of her that I can relate to, right? Yes. And just being a young woman in general, and what is that? What does that look like?
Feeling, I have a note about it, but feeling like being treated like an object.
Yeah, that's one of my questions too. So can you hold on to that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Actually, let's just go into it.
Hit me, girl.
Hang on. Xiomara talks a lot about her body developing and how boys are responding to that. Mm-hmm. Did you identify with this as a woman? And what do you think about her decision to use writing to cope with it?
This was one of the first things that really struck me about this book. Being sexualized as a teen happened to me a lot. I developed really quickly. I've talked about this before. Same. I went from being a flat-chested tomboy to having a large breast overnight. My first job was a waitress at a truck stop.
Right.
While my mother worked there and her friends, and I had a lot of protection in that, I was still treated.
Yeah.
I was still sexualized.
Right.
Like, there was no way around that. Men are, I'm sorry. I'm not going to, you know what? I don't care if I offend somebody. I don't care. I'm not going to apologize for this. It was gross.
Yeah.
Men sexualizing a teenage girl, sexualizing a child is disgusting. Yeah. And I still have some issues from that. Right. I had issues then about it, and I have issues now. And her finding an outlet to help her deal with it is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Because all I did was I compiled guilt.
Right.
I self-blamed. I put layers on. I lived in a hoodie.
Right. What can I do to stop them from looking at me like this?
Yep. Yeah. I lived in a baggy hoodie and baggy pants and just tried to hide my body because I felt gross and guilty. Like, it was your own fault. And Xiomara's mom makes her do that.
Yes.
Her mother.
I want to read an excerpt. This is on page 179. The title of it is Rough Draft of Assignment 3. Describes someone you consider misunderstood by society. I'm not going to read all of it because of copyright law. Like, we're not going to read the whole poem, but I want to read this end here. When I was little, mommy was my hero, but then I grew breasts. And although she was always extra hard on me, her attention became something else. Like she wanted me to turn me into the nun she could never be. And I love that there because what Xiomara is experiencing is not that she is doing anything. She's got this very curvaceous body, and she has a lot of people in the neighborhood, especially drug dealers. Her mommy doesn't. She calls her mom mommy. She doesn't like that her daughter is being catcalled at and things, but she's blaming Xiomara. Her. Yeah, like, this is your fault that you look this way, and it isn't. Like, she can't help that her body has developed that way. But her mom also has issues because her dad ran around on her. Yeah, and so she just doesn't, Yeah, but you can't blame your child for the way that they look.
No.
All you can do is teach them the values,
I didn't get a chance to get to your notes on this.
That's right.
Her mom has given her a lot of trauma.
Oh, yeah.
And the religion trauma is... Yes. This book definitely showed me... I mean, I know religious trauma is a trauma, but it really highlighted... I grew up with a lot of things, but religious trauma was not one of them.
Right.
And the religious trauma, seeing it from her point of view and seeing... She made that child feel dirty.
Yes. Yes. And it wasn't her fault.
And I'm sure we'll get into this, but the way she treated the situation on the train and everything that...
Right.
It hurts.
Yeah.
As a parent, it hurt to hear this.
Right. Yeah, it did. So while we're on the topic of her mom, this is one of my questions anyway. I lost the question.
It's okay.
Goodness, April. Okay, there it is. I feel like the most complicated relationship is between Z and her mother. So, like, what do you think about their relationship?
It's broken, honestly. And I think that has a lot to do about her mother's hangups and not Xiomara's.
Mm-hmm.
And but as children, we put things on ourselves,
right?
And she put a lot on Xiomara that she probably shouldn't have.
100%. And you talked about the religious trauma, and I'm just going to, if you're on YouTube, this is page 198 through 201 in the book. The poem is called Ants, and if you're on the YouTube page, you can see that the lines go down. And so this part of the book here is when Xiomara is being forced to kneel
on rice.
On rice in front of a Virgin Mary statue. And her mother tells her, look the Virgin Mary in the eye, girl. Ask for forgiveness. And
I was crying. I'm not going to lie. I cried.
All that Xiomara had done was that
make out with a boy on a train.
She kissed a boy on a train. And she knows that this could get her in trouble. But, like, I mean, that kind of, I mean, her mom is a bully. Her mom is a bully. Her mom is forcing her to attend confirmation classes when
obviously her mom, it's very apparent Xiomara is struggling with faith. It is apparent Xiomara has questions, and
I feel like I feel like this could be interpreted two ways. Like, maybe she is questioning her faith, and maybe this will be a faith that she doesn't practice as an adult.
And that's her choice.
But it could also be just a way to break away from her mom. Like, her mom is deeply religious and in the Catholic faith, and had planned
to be a nun.
She wanted to be a nun. She did not become a nun because basically she won a lottery to come to America, but that meant she had to marry Xiomara's dad. And I feel like she has so much guilt and feels so dirty for betraying what she wanted.
Jesus. God.
Yeah. And she's trying to instill this in her kids. And I mean, it's not going to work. You can't force your kids into your beliefs. Like as a Christian who's raising my kids in the church, I mean, the best I can do is hope that they follow in our footsteps. But if they chose to not be believers when they grew up, that is their personal choice.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, and her priest, he told her it was okay to question it.
Yeah. Yeah. And he actually tells Xiomara's mom that, like, I think she should keep coming to confirmation, but I don't think she should be confirmed this year because she's not ready.
Well, she's sitting there tonguing the freaking body of Christ. Like, that kid does not want to do this.
And by tonguing the body of Christ, she doesn't mean, like, making out with it.
I'm sorry.
She's hiding the wafer in her mouth so that she doesn't have to take the Eucharist.
Okay, right? If you've ever been forced to take meds, you'll know what I'm talking about. Sorry.
Just the way it came out, I was like, oh, she just make it out with Jesus.
I mean, her mother would love that.
Right.
There is, and since we're talking about the mom's punishment, she not only did she physically punish her, then she took things away. She took the child's lunch money away from her.
I know. I read that and I was like,
actual fuck. You know what? I wasn't going to ding this because this book is amazing, but fuck you, ma'am. Your child still needs to eat. Fuck you.
Molly still has the manners to say ma'am, but she still will say fuck
because she's adult.
Well, I think that, I mean, I tried to, like, logic that, and I think it was probably, like, extra money for lunch. Like, maybe she got free lunch.
Oh, no, that was, you are not getting to eat.
Well, again, she might have gotten free lunch at school, and then the extra money, and she was just not giving the extra money. But I think it's interesting that her relationship with her mom changes so dynamically from when she's younger to really looking up to her mom as a hero to when Xiomara's body started developing and her mom really didn't like that about her. Now they're in constant battle with each other. But
that's all her mother's doing, which is really...
It's all her mother's doing.
What a hard thing for a child to process.
100%. 100%. And I mean, I guess let's just talk about it now because we're talking about the relationship with her mom. But I think the most horrific thing that she does is not making her kneel on the rice. I think the most horrific thing she does is Ziamara on her birthday gets a new journal from her twin, and she accidentally leaves her current one on her table. And when she comes home from school, her mom has found it and she burns it.
Oh, devastating. And there's a line from this. I re-listened to it 3 times to make sure I heard it right. Can a scent be tattooed itself onto your memory?
Yeah.
She has so many of these little lines.
Yeah.
What is it? There's one, she goes, "Your lips are staples that pierce me quick and hard," when she's talking about her mother.
Yeah. I love how she later talks about rewriting down some of those poems that were burned. Yes. And how she knows that meant they were important enough to her for her to remember them. But I just can't imagine, like, as a mom, I can't imagine doing that to my kid. No. Like, her mom, when she reveals that she's read this, she tells Ziamara, "Do you think I don't know English well enough to know that you are talking about boys and me in this journal?" And that's what really upsets her.
Okay, I have a marker.
But I can't imagine burning my child's thoughts. Like, that's what you did. You burned her thoughts.
On Wednesday, November 14th, a poem Mommy will never read. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to read the whole thing.
You can't because of copyright.
Right. My mouth cannot write you a white flag. It will never be a Bible verse. My mouth cannot be the shape into an apology you said both you and God deserve. Like, she is literally apologizing in verse. And if her mother read that and processed it, instead of looking at her and saying she is the sinful child
and dirty, she keeps calling her dirty.
If she would have taken the moments to read that apology, she would see how much her child was struggling.
Yeah.
But she saw different verses and called her lustful, called her dirty, called her all these terrible things. And
she wasn't any of those things. In the book, she I was going to ask about him anyway, so let's transition to talking about Aman. Aman is her first boyfriend.
Yes.
And he and Ziamara share a moment in which, this is after the burning of her journal, she basically runs away to his house. Not to stay forever, but just for comfort. And they end up kissing and making out, and things get a little to the point where her shirt is off and his shirt is off. And when he goes to touch her between her legs, like he's got his hand on her thigh, like he hasn't reached up to all the way yet, she stops him. And because of the way that her mother has raised her, she believes that at that point, he's going to kick her out and make her feel like vulnerable, like
because she didn't want to do what he wanted to do.
But instead, he gives her shirt back and lets her get dressed.
Well, he put his shirt on her, didn't he?
Yes, yeah. Well, he tries to. His shirt's too big or too small for her because it pulls tight on her chest. Yeah. But he gives her shirt back so that she can get dressed and be comfortable again. And he doesn't kick her out. She stays the night there. But when her mom calls her dirty and basically accuses her of being a slut, your daughter hasn't even had sex yet. Like, she's not even had sex yet. And
because she's being true to herself.
The closest she's come has been with her shirt off. Like, this boy didn't even touch her vagina.
And that was after all this.
Yeah, you drove her to him.
Like, she felt bad about holding his hand and kissing him at the Halloween party.
Yes.
This child associates sex with guilt.
Yes, she's not allowed to date. She's not allowed to talk to boys. Like, she's not allowed to do any of those things. And her mom just continues to call her dirty, and she's not being dirty. Like, she didn't do anything wrong.
No, she feels bad about having lustful feelings. Like, it's just... It's devastating.
It's devastating.
So what do
you think about Aman as a first boyfriend for Z? Was he a good choice for her?
I think he was the first person she was willing to open up to. That music is a bridge, right? When they go to the Stoners Park, and he never pressures her to smoke weed. He never pressures her to do alcohol. He never did any of those things that you would assume a boy that's described, like the way her mother made her think boys would do.
Right.
So I think he's a good person. I mean, he even took her ice skating.
I know. I love that
he bought her beautiful date.
He bought her tickets to an apple orchard.
Right.
I mean, the one thing that he doesn't do
that's her birthday.
Yeah, the one thing that he doesn't do that's not great is like some boys are harassing her, and instead of standing up for her, he just kind of lets it be. But also, like, I don't know.
Okay, from what I'm understanding, he's a small dude, right?
I am, and I don't know that you can always blame him for that, because
I think it's just how she was interpreting the situation. She was really upset about her mom. She was.
I mean, he probably should have stood up for her, but I mean, I don't think if that's his only fault in this book, he was still a good first boyfriend.
Agreed.
He never pressured her to do anything she didn't want to do. And you brought up the ice skating, and so I want to read you my favorite quote from this book, and it actually happens in the ice skating scene. And this is on, if you are playing the home edition and would like to turn to the page, we're on page 188. And this happens while they're skating. The poem it comes from is called Thursday, November 8th, Around and Around We Go. And Amon is telling her that he loves ice skating, and he's actually really good at it. But he wasn't allowed to take lessons because he was a boy. And this quote can be interpreted for Amon, but it's also really relevant for Xiomara. And I feel this in my own life. And I think about all the things we could be if we were never told our bodies were not built for them.
Yes.
And like, as a woman who I've always been bigger, I've always been a bigger woman, being told, you should probably dress in baggy clothes. You probably shouldn't do these things. When I graduated high school, I was 200 pounds, but I was very athletic. I'm not athletic anymore, but I played sports year round. And so even though I was 200 pounds, I was in extremely good health. And I was made to feel like, often by people who I was supposed to care about, like my body wasn't made for that, and that I should be ashamed of my size. And now, as someone who's turning 40 soon, I'm not ashamed of my size. My body
you shouldn't be.
My body created life. Like I grew humans inside me. Two of them,
and survived. Mine tried killing me.
Mine tried to kill me too, but I did it. They survived, and I survived, and we're here. So I think about that. We tell kids constantly what their bodies are made for, and I hate that.
I actually saw a TikTok about this. There's addressing the body issues our generation has.
Yeah.
And some of it comes from when we used to watch growing up What Not to Wear.
Mm-hmm.
And how they used to tell us to dress for our body shape, and not for our comfort, and not for what made it. And we don't dress in clothes that bring us joy. We dress in clothes that are appropriate for our body.
Well, I actually probably 10 years ago, maybe. Well, Tom and I have been married for 11 years. So, yeah, I'd say about 10 years. 10 years ago, I stopped wearing really baggy clothes and started buying clothes that were more fitted to my body. And I realized that I actually looked better like that. Because when you wear really baggy clothes and you're already a big person, you just look frumpy.
And
you look
you
slovenly.
Can feel uncomfortable. Well,
yeah.
And
but when you wear
clothes, you comfortable, right?
Right. But when you wear clothes that are actually fitted, I mean, we've gone way off the mark here, but when you wear clothes that are fitted, you actually look better. I am thankful that we have so many body positivity people now. Like when we were kids, the 90s was the heroin chic, right? So all the models were stick thin, and now the
Remember when Jessica Simpson gained weight and they called her fat, and she was like a 12?
Right.
It was,
and now people who are in the fashion industry like Tim Gunn, and I'll link this video below because I absolutely love it. If you want to be empowered today and you're a plus size woman, watch this video by Tim Gunn. But it's basically him talking about how the fashion industry needs to change because the average body size in this country now is a 14.
That's me.
So
I am a 12 to 16 right now. It is frustrating finding clothes.
Yeah. I hate because like the only place I can really buy clothes is Torrid or Lane Bryant, and they're just so expensive.
Well, and nobody wants cold shoulders.
Right.
Nobody. I don't want sugar skulls.
Right.
I don't need a Mickey Mouse shirt. You know what I mean? Like it's just.
Well, and I don't want to go to a place like Kohl's and buy a 2X, but it's just they added more fabric. That's not actually how you make plus size clothes. You have to actually make them for the body. Anyway, we've gone way off the rails here. So my point is, I really love that quote because I feel like it's so relatable. And it's the one thing that, like, whenever I suggest this book to people, I'm like, but you got to read this one part. And it's the one I really like.
Damn it, read it.
So was there like a quote that really connected with you or a poem that you really connected with?
The one about her mom. Your lips are staples that pierce me quickly and hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know how rough my childhood was.
Right.
I don't need to get into details here. But this lashes back to my birth father.
Mm-hmm.
The pain he gave wasn't always physical,
right.
but hella emotional.
Right.
And as an adult, I realized that was his issues and not my issues.
Right.
But let me tell you what. Those staples sit forever.
Right. Right.
And
I feel like Ziamara is going to be always fucked up from it. Like,
right. No that child, if that child's not in therapy, she needs to be. There was one phrasing I really found interesting. Billboard frown. Like, in the beginning of the book, I don't know where it is because I didn't get the book till after. She's talking about the way she looks and her billboard frown, like way she's trying to deter people.
Yeah. She's trying really hard not to be looked at.
Right, and I just found that phrasing really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I think that relation of her mom and like when she talks about her mom, that's very relatable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's so many different times in this book she talks about her brother,
mm-hmm.
and the way she describes him.
Mm-hmm. I love that she calls him twin.
Twin.
Anyone can call him Xavier, but she's the only person that can call him twin.
And he's like an hour older because they had to have a C-section to get her out. But mm-hmm. like in the beginning, she describes him like he is such a contradiction to her.
He's completely opposite.
He's tiny and he's smart and he's this
right.
and he's that. And I lost the spot, but he was like, it was just wild the way she was describing him at one point. The verbiage she was using.
Right. She's big and he's little and he's got a super brain and she's average in intelligence. Although, I mean, I don't know. She's pretty fucking good at poetry. So, but she doesn't. That's
different, right? Like, right. I can write a novel, but I am not as intelligent as you are.
Well, whatever.
We talked about this last week. You've never gotten below a C. Like
I've never gotten. I have a master's degree and have never scored lower than a C.
And my mantra is C's get degrees.
And I guess I could probably count up the number of C's I had all through school, my bachelor's and my master's degrees. It would probably be less than 10.
Fuck you. I love you, but go fuck yourself.
but let's be honest, a lot of that is not intelligence and is my anxiety / OCD, and I obsess about my grades, so I work really, really hard to get A's and B's.
You've heard me go on this tirade before, but there is different variations of intelligence.
Oh, 100%. Tom is actually a genius. Like, he's a legit genius. And it's so hard for me to, like...
But homeboy does not always hit social cues.
Oh, baby, I love you so much, but you...
I love you dearly, but There's times.
Social cues. But his whole family is like science smart, and that's not where my smarts are. And so I'll be like sitting in the room with them, and they'll all be talking about science, and I'm just like, well, I know what these words mean because I understand language that way, but I can't contribute to this conversation.
2 plus 2 equals 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8. But after that, you're, my husband is brilliant, and he chooses not to be. And there's just, I don't know. I feel like we all have different skill sets that make us intelligent. Like, what was it the other day I got super stoked about? That useless knowledge book I found at Half Price Books. Like, well, I love that kind of shit.
I don't have dumb friends. Like, I can't carry on a conversation with somebody who is like,
joke's on you, boo.
Molly, you are not dumb.
I say dumb things.
Well, I mean, there's a big difference between that. I say a lot of dumb things, and I'm a very intelligent person. But no, so going back to Twin, to Xavier, they are the polar opposites. So I like the dynamic of their relationship, though. What did you think about it?
I really love their dynamic. I love that they like being in the same bedroom.
I don't know how they can handle that. All I kept thinking was, I would be so uncomfortable changing in front of my brother. Like, I have 3 brothers. They were not going to change with me. No way.
I think if you grow up with it in the same room constantly.
Well, maybe they use change the bathroom. I don't know. Could have.
But, I mean, we learned that they both have secrets, though, the whole time, right?
Right.
Like, twins in the closet.
That's
then he gets heartbroken, and
that was actually one of my questions. Were you surprised that he was a gay youth?
I mean, it happens all the time in the Catholic Church.
It happens all the time in just reality,
right?
Not just the Catholic Church.
It didn't surprise me, not based off the way using stereotypes, which is gross. And the way writing has been leaning nowadays, which is wonderful. Right. I am glad it was included in this. This book felt like it wasn't even like it was that was a point to be made. Mm-hmm. You know how some books use the LGBTQ plus.
Well, I think they were making a point, but I don't think it was the point that you're talking about. Okay. I think the way that they handle the fact that he's gay.
Which we never get to.
It was surprising to me. He doesn't tell his parents because Xiomara keeps saying that if his parents know, they will basically disown him. It's not even
send him to DR. Yeah, right. They just keep. That's their answer for everything. We're sending you to DR. We're sending you to DR. We're sending you to DR.
And it's not even about them being Catholic. It's about the fact that in the culture that they live in, and I can't say that this is true for all. Latinx Americans, but the culture that Xiomara is in, at least with her family, they will disown him because gay is not okay,
right?
From that family. And what was really interesting to me was the way that Xiomara handled it, because she had suspected her brother was gay for quite some time, but she didn't really want to ever accept it. When she finds out officially that he's gay, she calls his boyfriend white boy. Refuses to call him Cody. He's just white boy.
I feel
and
more.
My parents aren't even going to just be mad that you're gay. They're going to be even more mad that you're dating a white boy.
A white boy, yeah.
So that to me was an interesting point. And I mean, I don't know. I know quite a few people who are Latina. I don't know a lot of Latinx people outside of Florida. And Texas. I don't really know many here at all, but I don't know any of them that would have had a problem with that. So I don't know if that's a stereotype within that community that, like, in the Latinx community, they're not as accepting to LGBTQ. I don't know. But at least in this world that she's writing about, that is the case.
I have a former friend who was also my hairdresser for a while when I lived in Pearland. I'm not going to say his name. He was Hispanic and gay. Mm-hmm. He refused to date. He was open about the fact that he was attracted to men. but he didn't date. He was hyper-religious. He lived with his mom, and he was pretty much celibate and focused on his career and his religion.
Well, I mean, I guess you have to make the choices for yourself, but it makes me sad.
It makes me sad too, because the more I got to know him, the more I really liked him, and I could sense that, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like he wasn't being his full self, and as soon as I questioned it as his friend, he cut me off as a client and a friend. So he wasn't ready to address it himself.
Yeah.
So,
well, I just, as close as Xiomara and Xavier are, I just thought it was interesting that she was still not, and knowing how her parents are with her, I was surprised that she wasn't more.
But she could have threw him under the bus.
She could
save
have
her own skin in several situations, and she
You're
didn't.
Right. You're right, but she also doesn't do anything to make him feel like he's safe to come out.
No,
she tells him, "Our dad'll kill you over white boy," basically.
And she pretty much, he says, "We just got to wait till college. We got to wait till college. Once we get to college,
and he's skipped a grade, so he's going first,
right?" And she's like, "You don't understand. You're leaving me, right? Like,
I'm going to be alone for a year without you." Yeah,
and I mean, it's true. Like, it's she is going to have to try to survive without him, and at the end, it seems like things are all healed, but the truth isn't out yet about him.
Right.
And
but they are in therapy, and I do think,
but it's religious therapy, and
there's something. It's not religious therapy. It's therapy with a priest, which is not. It's not necessarily the same thing.
Right, but
I do think his dad. I think his dad knows, because based on what she says at the end about how her dad's opening up more, and that his relationship with Xavier is getting repairing better. I think he has suspected for a while that his son is gay.
I mean, Xiomara always fought for him, right? Xiomara was always the one to throw hands. Xiomara was
right. I mean, that's actually how she finds out he's gay. She shows up at his school because someone hit him,
and she was going to take care of business,
right? And she questions whether it was Cody that hit him, but it wasn't.
Right. And he's like, "Nah, it's just some fool in gym." But it's just. She tries to make the family healing in the end feel wrapped up and tight, and it's not that simple.
Well, I don't know that I think it's all wrapped up and tight, because she actually says, "Mommy and I are never going to be the two to go shopping together. We're not going to have this relationship. What we can have is a conversation, and it be civil, and it be two-sided." And honestly, as someone that has a very tumultuous relationship with my mother, that's all you can ask for when you have a toxic mother. It's just to reach the point where you can have a conversation that doesn't end in you feeling like, I fucked up again, even though you didn't do anything wrong. Right. And so, and also she's 16. She turned 16 in the book. Like, she's a sophomore in high school. So there's a lot to go. And maybe Xiomara, if she were a real person, would grow up and never have that relationship with her mom again. Maybe she would leave home and just that would be the end of it. But I don't think that's where Elizabeth Acevedo is going with it.
No.
I think it's more she's going to keep her mom at a distance, and at a healthy one. And I think her mom is turning a corner too.
Mental health, yeah.
And I think her mom's turning a corner too. I think really hearing Xiomara read her poetry, that helps. So speaking of reading the poetry, we've talked about the impact that teachers and English teachers can have on kids before in other episodes. So what do you think of Xiomara's relationship with Miss Galliano?
At the beginning, she's very standoff from her, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like Xiomara does that with everybody. I feel like she's always protecting herself, and
100%.
And I think that threads from her home life,
right?
And feeling like she has to protect herself there,
right?
But as soon as she opens up to her and the poetry club,
right,
we see as the readers a change in Z, right?
Yeah.
And
I think she becomes less internal reflective, and she starts actually expressing herself out externally.
She's becoming more of herself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when she goes to school the next morning after the big incident, and she sleeps over at Amon's house, and like her teacher looks her up and down, and she sees she's in the same clothes.
Yeah.
And she can see it on her teacher's face, and Xiomara just dumps it and is sobbing into this woman who's not much older than her, right?
Right.
Who is just sobbing uncontrollably, and she's like, oh my God, this is her, this proves right there that teachers see their students as their kids, because she takes her in, she holds her, she gives her personal cell phone number, she tells her it's gonna be okay. And that trust, knowing that there was an adult there in a situation where she felt like she had nobody, I'm crying a little bit, was beautiful, because that's not always the case.
Right.
For kids.
Well, and sorry. As a former English teacher and now a librarian, what I can say is I feel like books are a really great way for kids to connect. And I think that having been a teacher who's reading with your students, it's a great way to actually break into conversations. It's a good gateway into their personal lives. And this week while I was at a conference, I went to a session that was about like mental health book club kind of thing. And it was a guidance counselor and a librarian who paired up together. And the guidance counselor said, as librarians, you have more access to their trauma. And I thought about that, and I'm like, that's really true.
Holy shit.
It's really true.
So true.
It is true, because the kids that go to the guidance counselor, they're either kids that like have been referred there by a teacher or somebody within the school, or they're so troubled that like their parents have sent them there. But like they don't open up the same way in a guidance office as they do in a library, where they're just like telling me, and I hear a lot of stories.
As a kid that hid in the library in middle school, this is factual.
Yeah. So having that, like, I love that expression, you have access to their trauma. I can't always keep your confidence, because there are some things that legally I have to report, and I'm always honest with that about the kids. But I also want them to feel like they have a safe space. And I think Miss Galliano gives Xiomara that safe space.
Yes.
And she has it within Poetry Club. And I think I love that she tells Xiomara, your work is very poetic, even though she's not supposed to be writing poems, she's supposed to be writing essays.
Right.
And so
she sees who Xiomara is from the get.
Right. She definitely does. And there are some things in this book that like make me think, okay, as a young teacher, I would have done that. Now as a more experienced teacher, like I'm not giving kids my personal cell phone number. When I was a younger teacher, all of my yearbook and newspaper kids had my cell phone number. I mean, they would text me whenever they wanted. One of them called me from a concert because they knew I liked a song that was on. Like,
oh, that's sweet.
But I'm not in my 20s anymore. I have a family. I have a personal life, and I have that boundary much more.
I think you have more perspective now. Time.
And I don't think that all of the boundaries Ms. Galliano has with her are very healthy. But the other thing is, I have a feeling that there was an English teacher in Elizabeth Acevedo's life.
Oh, this felt semi-autobiographical.
Oh, 100%. I don't know. I don't know that it is. But have you seen a picture of Elizabeth Acevedo?
Yeah, she's beautiful. She's gorgeous.
This is her, if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
But that's Elizabeth Acevedo, and look at our cover art. They look similar. So I have a feeling.
Autobiographical.
Yeah, I think autobiographical.
Thank you.
I know where you are. Words are hard.
So words are hard. That's my mantra. That's the Molly merch. Words are hard.
So I only have 2 more questions for you, but so there's Spanish throughout this book.
Yes.
Did you enjoy the authenticity of the code switching, or did you find it difficult to read?
In the audiobook, I can read it pretty well. I'm not as fluent as I used to be. If somebody is speaking it to me slowly in Spanish, I can process it.
Yeah.
But my brain struggles with the dual language thing because of the way my ADHD functions.
Right.
But they go so fast. She goes fast when she speaks in Spanish. So I only got like every third word, but I loved it. I feel like it's authentic to the character. I feel like she speaks in Spanish. That like Xiomara speaks in Spanish and English. That is her home life. That is bilingual. The way she's definitely. That's how she's coming up. For her, not like for the character not to speak bilingual, or not, it wouldn't have felt real.
Yeah. I enjoyed the Spanish. I took 4 years of German, which is like useless. What the fuck am I going to do with German?
But, go to Germany, damn it!
Well, I did go to Germany. And actually, German saved my life in Poland, which is a story for another time.
When we go on live shows, we will tell it. And she will speak for both of us because she speaks German.
But you know how when you hear something in another, well, maybe you don't know about this, but like this is how I felt when I was listening to it. I did not know the words she was saying when she was speaking Spanish, but I knew the words she was saying when she was speaking
because
Spanish.
Context, tone, and inflection.
The way that the words flow from her tongue and
proof that poetry, no matter the language, hits you.
Like it's like I understood what she meant. I knew what she was saying. I knew that her mom is scolding her. I knew that she was in pain because the way that Elizabeth Acevedo reads this, chef's kiss. It's amazing.
Xiomara even says something. Okay, so this is the same with music, right? Mm-hmm. That's a different form. And Xiomara herself said it. Music is a bridge.
Oh, yeah.
This was just another formatting of that.
100%.
You get from the tone, context, sound, and feeling of the person's voice, no matter the language. You can feel their heart.
And if you're listening to this and you haven't, absolutely, Molly, 100%, the heart was there. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't read the book and you're not sure if you want to tackle something that's in Spanish, the translation is there. So
it is, fact.
She says the line in Spanish and then says it in English. But it's not written so that it's meant to be a translation. It's written in like that poetic form that is still flowing right off her tongue, which is just beautiful. But I 100% felt her heart in all of it, and it was just it was fucking beautiful. So here's an example. 306, if you're looking online,
if you're playing the home game.
If you're playing the home game. So if you're watching online on YouTube, 306 starts with verses, and one side of it is in
English
and one side is in Spanish. So I'm where the X is marked. I arrive, battle ready, and then it
Dios te salves, Maria, llena eres de gracia.
So it says it in Spanish. So
see, I know some Spanish.
I don't know any. German.
I suck at it, and I apologize to our Spanish-speaking friends. I suck.
German came in real handy when I taught in Pasadena, Texas. Or when I was a librarian in Pasadena, Texas, sometimes I would answer the phone and someone would just start speaking Spanish to me. And like literally the only thing I could say was uno momento, por favor. That was all I knew how to say, which is a travesty. Like
in Florida, you didn't need it too.
Most of my students in Florida who were Latino were Cuban. And several generations Cuban American. And I did have quite a few Puerto Rican American students, but they, again, not first generation. I only had one student who was a first generation born American that I can remember off the top of my head. So my last question for you, because we are running out of time. This is my one criticism, my one of this. Oh boy. So is this book ending in a citywide poetry slam a cliche way to end a book about a young poet? What do you think?
Little bit.
So that's my one criticism of it.
I feel like it gives Xiomara this hero moment.
Yeah, it does.
And, most kids in her shoes don't get that moment.
Yeah.
And, I like that for Xiomara because children of trauma don't always get that moment.
Yeah, and I think it was important for her mom to see it too.
Right. And I'm glad it ends that way. I don't think it's realistic.
I don't think it's realistic either. I did rate this one 5 stars. I just checked. I did rate this one 5 stars. So that's 2 weeks in a row that I've rated a book 5 stars, which is like fucking amazing because that doesn't happen. But 353, that is the Poetry Slam. And if you listen to
it's super cool.
If you listen to the audiobook, she reads this poem 2 different ways at the end and like an author's note kind of thing. This type of poem can be read across or it can be read down into columns. And so the way she reads it the first time is across. So you get, with Miss Galliano's assistance, I let the poem rise from my heart. With Twin helping me practice, I hand it over like a present I've had gift wrap. But you could also read it with Miss Galliano's assistance, with Twin helping me practice. Yes. I thought that was very cool that she added that note in there in the audiobook.
If I heard it right, she said she didn't intend it to do that. It just happened.
She didn't intend it to do that. It just happened.
Which was cool.
Yeah, but she did read it across, but you can, read it both ways. But I think that ending in a slam, pretty cliche. But if that's the only fault of this book, that it fell into a cliche at the very end.
Because as a first-time writer, this book is spectacular.
She won a Carnegie Medal. Who are we to judge?
Fucking A, yeah. Where's that round of applause again?
Yeah, she won a lot of awards for this book, but the Carnegie Medal, that's fucking impressive. So, anyway, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this one? We're going long 2 weeks in a row. Man, I'm sorry, listeners. Thanks for sticking with us.
It's because we miss each other so much.
It is.
Yeah. I feel like, okay, was I understanding it right that her parents were older when they had them?
Yes, so they do talk about that. Her mom wasn't able to get pregnant for a very long time, and I think her mom sort of
surprised they could get pregnant.
Right. I think her mom sort of like has a lot of guilt that the reason that she couldn't get pregnant was because she like betrayed Jesus.
I'm sorry, that's not funny. I'm sure there's people out there that really believe that. I oh my god. I just don't I didn't know. I'm gonna stop.
I don't know. I'm not Catholic, so I can't.
I'm not religious, and
yeah.
And I try not to mock religion. I'm not trying to mock religion. I really do. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It just makes me laugh when somebody is like, "Hey, I'm cheating on the guy in the sky." That feels weird.
I mean, I can understand it. I mean,
I
don't feel that way, but I can understand it.
I just can't relate. 0 out of 0 relatability. Sorry. My bad.
Well, anything else?
Next week is Martian.
Yeah, so the next week. Yeah, let's talk about that.
I'm so excited about this. I don't have my physical copy.
Here's mine. The Martian by Andy Weir. I am currently in process of reading this. Molly's going to host next week. This is her pick. I've never read this before.
I love this book so much. So fucking much. I read this before the movie came out.
I have seen the movie, but I have never read the book, so this is going to be my first time. I actually in progress of this book. And then we're going to... Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not going to get too into this because we can talk about it on the 21st episode. While the movie is a good standalone, it cannot hold a candle to that fucking book.
Yeah, the book's really good.
It is really good. There's I'll have to look it up for next week, but there's like this drama about the audiobook narrator. There was one and now there's a new one, and like it was a whole thing.
I don't know. I'm reading the physical book because I'm listening to fucking Harry Potter and the Death of Hillary.
But you're almost done, you! How can you not like Harry Potter? You've read all the books.
Yeah,
I used
about that.
No quote on you.
About that. We're going to wrap out the month with this book, Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. I've not read this one, neither has Molly. It came out this year. This will be...
I don't think I've read anything by her yet.
She's written Everything, and you didn't read... what was the other book? Oh my gosh, I just can't believe I blanked.
I don't know.
Everything, and then... April. The Sun is Also a Star. Didn't you read that when our book club did it?
Nope, because I was in the middle of school.
Well, anyway, I love her. She's a fantastic author. And I'm very excited to read this one. And it's going to be our first time reading a book that came out this
same year. Yeah.
Yeah. We've tended to read books that we've already read.
Or at least one of us have.
Or that have been out for a few years. So this is our first one that'll be from this year. And then we'll jump into December. So if you don't have anything else to add, Molly, I feel like we need to go. Man, we are over again.
After Instruction to Dancing is Harry Potter.
Fuck me. I just want to say that no one again can tell me that I did not give it a chance. No one can tell me that I did not give it a chance. I give it chances.
And we're out, bestie. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April, not those of anyone else. Today's book was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. Your book besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins. Editing by Thomas Watkins. And music is Sleep Sweetly by Prigida. Don't forget to follow Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. If you'd like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com.